Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jezelle and I'm going to go over eclipse season here with you, and we're going to talk about the upcoming lunar eclipse. But before we get into that, I just wanted to talk about what the upcoming eclipse season has in store. So eclipses are said to be very powerful and supercharged new moons and full moons. And the first one that we have coming up is a full moon. So it's a supercharged full moon. We are looking at a lot of ups and downs in the realm of relationship. So what does that mean? Between Aries and Libra, where the North Node and the South Node are, we are experiencing a lot of change, shifts, and evolution in the field of myself, me, versus relationship, we and us and ours. With the North Node in Aries, there's a lot more focus on who are you deep down, who do you identify as, and what do you desire? How do you get motivated? What makes you act? Versus Libra, which is really solely focused on partnering and finding balance and harmony between yin and yang. It's just very dualistic in that nature. So I'm going to open the chart so that we can look at it together, and we'll look at what this upcoming eclipse season has in store before we dive into the lunar eclipse. Today is March 20th, and we have entered eclipse season. When we hit eclipse season, it's said to be when the sun is within 17 degrees of the North Node or the South Node. So in this case, the sun is within the North Node. There's a lot more emphasis and focus on the evolutionary aspect of these eclipses. And there will be a huge release of something that is holding you back from embarking upon the journey that you're meant to go on. Within this eclipse season, we have a lunar eclipse, which we're going to go over. And then we have the Aries solar eclipse, which is happening on April 8th. Now that one's going to be a big one. I'm going to save all of that information for the next video. Mercury goes retrograde in Aries. So when Mercury goes retrograde, and I will dive into this on the next video as well, but when Mercury goes retrograde, he's going to pass over Chiron. Right now he's conjunct Chiron, but he is going to make his pass back and forth again. So we're going to look into that as well. But anyways, without further ado, let's take a look at our lunar eclipse chart. Here it is. So the lunar eclipse is happening on March 25th at around 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun is in Aries at 5 degrees during the time of the lunar eclipse. And the moon is across the sky, making it a full moon, but a supercharged full moon at 5 degrees of Libra. Now the moon is widely conjunct the South Node, about 11 degrees apart, and the sun is a widely conjunct the North Node, about 11 degrees apart. What makes this lunar eclipse really interesting is that there is a whole emphasis here on this side of the chart, and all of that is funneling its energy towards the moon. This is called a bucket formation, where you have the handle of the bucket at the top, and then you have all of the contents of the bucket at the bottom. So all of these planetary energies are blending, merging together and feeding towards the moon and the South Node. The last time we had a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse was last October. And when we had that, it was in these signs. So you could probably look back to that time and see what popped off for you, what you experienced, if there was anything significant that emerged during that time. And you could expect somewhat of the same or experience it at another level, like at a second level or a second step, as this whole story for the year and a half that we have eclipses in Aries and Libra evolves over time. When we have the North Node in Aries, the North Node is looked at as the space that is uncharted territory. It's an area where we're meant to explore and evolve and sort of feed a little bit more, whereas the South Node is a lot more comfortable because we've been there, done that, experienced it before. It's something that we've carried with us from the past. And when there is a lunar eclipse, especially at the South Node, it holds this huge release of South Node energies. North Node in Aries is all about the self. It's about self-assertion, self-awareness, self-authority, self-sovereignty, self-love, self-reflection, self-discovery, self-nurturing. selfishness, and not selfishness in a negative way. Selfishness as in you're filling your cup first. You're taking care of you first before you can give your energy or feed anyone else. What we can look towards with the North Node in Aries is being assertive in our desires, going after what you want, being daring, being open and risk taking, or taking that leap of faith in decisions or actions or experiences that you want to take. Being proactive regardless of what other people are doing, not waiting on someone else to take action and to do something. Displaying confidence, being independent and operating from your true sense of self. So who you are and what you enjoy, what you find pleasurable, what you find motivating, all of that stuff is what drives you. Pioneering, initiating, and taking the driver's wheel. You are making it happen for yourself. You're not waiting again on others. Openness and transparency about who you are. So unapologetically stating who you are, what you enjoy, where your boundaries are, especially with boundaries. Having self-awareness and trusting your impulses. Trusting your impulses is huge because Aries is largely reliant on its instinctive impulses. It doesn't think before it acts, it just goes. There's something within it, that fire that burns within it that guides it and directs it into taking action, and it trusts that impulse, which is why it's the ram. It moves in head first at whatever it's targeting. So on that same note, pursuing activities that are meaningful to you, not caring what other people think, moderation and giving your time and energy. So this isn't to say as being, the whole notion of being selfish. It isn't to say that you shouldn't give your time and energy or any attention to anybody else. That's not what this is. If you are the type of person that is in the shadow of Libra, which is always pouring your energy and your time into someone and into your relationship rather than taking care of yourself first, you need to reel back on that. You need to reel back on that, and you need to come back to you. What do you need before you can help somebody else? What do you need to feel loved before you can love somebody else? What do you need to feel nurtured in order for you to nurture somebody else? So just putting you before other people and knowing that you are complete just as you are, not needing somebody else to complete you or to make you feel a certain way. The South Node in Libra energy, I've already mentioned a few, but we'll go over them, is people pleasing and codependency. So people pleasing in the sense that you are compromising yourself to make someone else happy. Stop doing that. If you're the type of person that does that, stop doing that. You are who you are. Don't apologize for it. If that person's not meeting you at that frequency, then they're not meant to be at that frequency with you. And that's okay. You can allow that to fall away. Codependency is relying on other people to get things done, to have experiences, to go places, compromising to keep the peace, constantly trying to keep harmony and find balance, and having indecision because of that. Sometimes you just need to pick a direction. Sometimes you just need to say, I'm going left, and that's that. Don't worry about what's on the right side. If you've picked left, focus on left. With Libra, sometimes there's like that hum and haw of, I really want to explore right, but then I don't want to leave out left because I really want to explore left too. And which one is better for me and which one's the most ideal for me? You got to let that go. Just focus on that instinctive impulse, that intuition that lights up inside of you, and follow that impulse, follow that guide. South Node in Libra is also tit for tat. So if something happens, you don't need to repeat that same thing in order to make it equal. Living vicariously through others, shying away from confrontation, being the passenger, remaining dormant and stagnant, seeing yourself through other people's eyes and putting yourself in their shoes. Now, this one is one that I had to reflect on because I'm an empathetic person. And so for me, I naturally put myself in other people's shoes. And I think, how would I feel if I was receiving the information that I'm about to give them, or whatever the situation is? And really, at the end of the day, you're not responsible for buffering someone else's experience. If something needs to be said and something needs to be done, just do it, because their journey is their journey and your journey is your journey. If you're buffering someone's experience because you're afraid of hurting their feelings, then you're taking away from their potential growth. Sometimes people need catalysts. Sometimes people need that fire that's lit under them for them to feel a shakeup within them to change, to progress, to heal, to do whatever it is that they're meant to do. So if you feel like you need to say something, I'm not saying go out there and be a jerk, but at the same time, if you need to speak your truth, speak your truth. Don't hold it back just because you're trying to make someone feel as best as they could possibly feel, and it's making you compromise what you need to say or what you need to do. I mentioned this one before already, selflessness tendencies and giving away your power and energy. This can be an absolute bottomless pit in the shadow side of Libra. Always being nice, over attaching to fairness and justice. This sort of ties in with the tit for tat. And having that long search for an ideal committed partnership. The ideal committed partnership probably doesn't exist. And I mean, I'm not like super experienced in having long-term committed partnerships, but I can imagine that those people who have been together for 20 plus years or 30 plus years will tell you that there is absolutely not an ideal partnership. So having attaching yourself rather to this perfect image is actually going to hold you back from the real experience, the real raw experience that you're meant to have in life. Okay, so now that we've gone over that and we've explored North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra, we can now look at this supercharged full moon, which is the lunar eclipse in Libra. The lunar eclipse in Libra is happening on March 25th, 2024 at around 3 a.m. We will feel this leading up to it. You may already start to experience the effects of it right now as we are already in eclipse season, and you can experience it for quite some time after the eclipse. I've heard some people say that you can experience it 6 months up to 6 months after the eclipse, but in my personal experience, when there's an eclipse and it's happening or touching something in my chart, I experience it in that moment. I experience it in that season. It doesn't come up later. It doesn't come up before. It's like in that season. So keep your eyes peeled for anything that's about to come up. But what this eclipse is really, really looking at is the shadow side of Libra, because the moon, which is our soul and our emotions, our habitual behaviors, our attachments, what makes us feel comfortable, what makes us feel sort of held back. The moon is sort of like the past, like it holds on to what was. So when the moon is connected to the south node, which represents the past, we can experience at this supercharged full moon peak moments and illuminations and or completions, closures, and endings from the past and past cycles. This can be behaviors from the past, habits that have been formed from the past, or conditioning, I guess, that have been formed from the past. Past relationships can be falling away, or maybe there's a little thread that's still connecting you. That thread could be cut, that cord could be cut. Anything that comes up during this time is actually something that you're ready to transform with. And I say that because we have a very close trine with the moon and Pluto. Pluto is the planet of transformation. It will destroy something in order to bring anew. And when it destroys, it doesn't care about how you're going to feel. It doesn't care about what your situation is going to be, but you have to have faith in that moment that whatever comes up is coming up because you need to change or something needs to change within you. And whatever is on the other side is actually way better for you. Now, when it's a trine, it's a lot easier to manage versus when it's a square, for example, or even a conjunction or an opposition. The trine is very easy flowing energy. It is the path of least resistance. So whatever is coming up at this time is supposed to feel like it's a sigh of relief. It's very cathartic. Now, the sun at the same time is in sextile with Pluto, and this is a supportive aspect. So when the sun, or when any planet rather, is in sextile with another planet, sextile is like an opening of opportunity. It can be a successful outcome if you take action. And where is the sun? It's in the sign of action. It's in the sign of taking action. So think about all of the North Node in Aries themes that I've mentioned before, and that's where you focus. that is where you focus, because when you do that, you are allowing yourself to experience this like full cathartic release that is going to be extremely supportive for rediscovering your identity, coming back to you, evolving you, finding a new purpose or a new sense of you, rather. When you do that, it's going to be like medicine to your soul. Think of it as like an evolutionary upgrade. It will feel like a welcomed shift, this whole lunar eclipse experience. Now, the ruler of Libra is Venus, and Venus is over here in Pisces, conjunct Saturn. The exact conjunction that happened between Venus and Saturn was on March 21st. And what we're looking at with Venus and Saturn is relationships, values, money, beauty, pleasure, sensuality, Venus, and restriction, death, past, boundaries, limitations, karma, commitment, and grounding, Saturn. Now, bring those together and you have a whole slew of things that this could mean for you. But because we are in Pisces, Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It is also the most ethereal of the zodiac. It is up and out. There are no boundaries with Pisces. Pisces is let's explore fantasies. Let's live through these fantasies. Let's forget that we're even in this world. And Saturn is really grounding that energy so that we're not completely losing ourselves. So with Saturn and Venus together, how this lunar eclipse is painted is that we're experiencing maturity, growth, and an understanding of Venusian themes. Venusian themes being that strong feminine energy, being those relationships and our relationship values and money and social gatherings and what we find beautiful and how we connect. So we're experiencing that maturity, that growth and understanding. We're gaining wisdom at this time from what's illuminated. There's also a sense of grounding so that we're not getting lost in the fantasy and the delusion. We're establishing healthy boundaries within our relationships and with money. We may be experiencing karmic endings and forgiveness of the past so that we can move forward and find that harmony, that balance. And because Venus also represents creative gifts, creativity, and talents, this could also just be a discovering or accepting or owning a creative talent or a gift that you have and committing to it and being able to not just keep it to yourself, but materialize it in some way. Because whatever Saturn connects with, it crystallizes, it makes it real, it makes it tangible, it brings it into the current experience of this world. Saturn is all about building foundation. So I really see this time as being a peak experience, an illumination or a closure that is meant to create a really solid foundation for your relationships, or at least creating an opportunity to have a strong, solid foundation in what you want and what you desire out of relationships. First, discovering who you are and then setting that as your foundation. Those are your initial building blocks, is you. And then whatever is built on top of that is going to be a reflection of you. Venus and Saturn are in sextile with Jupiter and Uranus between Pisces and Taurus. And Taurus, this is a really interesting connection because the traditional ruler of Pisces is Jupiter, and the ruler of Taurus is Venus. So there's mutual reception here, making this like a really solid sextile. This is a really, really, really great and benefic connection to have. Even though Saturn is there, but because it's a sextile, it's just giving you this opportunity to take something that you really desire, take something that you really enjoy or you find pleasurable and make it a reality. Or taking your fantasies, your dreams, or whatever you've been imagining, you've been maybe manifesting, maybe you've been working on a manifestation, maybe you've been working on trying to make something happen that you've always imagined would be so good for you. And you're bringing that into the earth realm. Uranus is here to shake up the status quo. It's saying that whatever was is no longer going to be. We're going to change it up and we want something brand new. So how I'm seeing this lunar eclipse is that we are releasing to gain and we are making room to receive. Sometimes our lives can be so full that you need to let go of what you're hanging on to, maybe stubbornly, so that you can create space for something new to enter your life that's actually going to be a lot more aligned with you, with who you are. It's going to support you and who you are. It's going to make you feel a lot more lively. It's going to make you feel a lot more energetic and motivated. And you're going to feel like you can move forward with confidence. So, whatever comes up for you during this eclipse season, especially during the lunar eclipse, just allow it to be. When we experience eclipses, things can happen that are outside of our control. Eclipses are said to be very divine in the way that they present themselves. The things that happen are meant to happen. They are meant to happen in a way that is for the betterment of us and helping us progress, even if in that situation, in that moment, the experience feels completely horrible. I personally experienced a significant loss during eclipse season, and for me, it was the most horrifying experience. However, who I am now and the experiences I went through after that, what cascaded after that, completely shifted me and changed me for the better. So I look back on that thinking that was a significant moment in my life. And although that experience was totally heartbreaking, I am who I am now because of that experience. And I couldn't go back to who I was before that experience because that person wasn't honoring my true identity and I wasn't bearing my true soul. I wasn't being my true self. This really pushed me, it progressed me. So when you experience something during eclipse season that is unpleasant, just remember that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is something good to come of it. You need to take your experience and you need to evolve from that experience. Take your time, move at your own pace. There's no rush, there's no expectation. However, if you are not moving forward, you are staying stagnant. And if you're staying stagnant, nothing is changing. So if you want something to change or shift in your life, you need to take the steps to ensure that that happens for you. And it can be one step at a time. But I just wanted to mention that because eclipses sometimes have a really bad rap. And I don't think that they're bad. I just think that when someone's stagnant, if someone's super, super resistant to what needs to shift, it's going to almost be forced upon them. And I think that's where the bad rap comes from. Eclipses hold this energy where the veil is thin between worlds, between the physical world and the spiritual world. So there's a lot of really powerful energy that moves through the earth during eclipse season. Every eclipse season has something, whether it's micro on your level or even how you just like internally and how you feel, or it's macro and it's happening and you feel like your world is flipped upside down. Just know that this too shall pass. You need to just move through the motions of it. You need to experience what you're experiencing because it's meant to shape you in a certain way. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. Tried not to make this too long. I wish you all a really healing and cathartic and beautiful eclipse season. And I'll see you next time. Take care.